So we got this hot pink hammock, and my wife made yellow ridgeline and some cinch buckles with yellow cords on them to match. The woman that ordered this also has a tarp, but I gotta film the tarp today because it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and of course, you know, as you can see, I don't have that done. So go out here, and tarp's hanging out there. Let's go out there and take a look at that. So hopefully my lack of camera knowledge will not hurt me too bad on here. I've been having trouble getting it, even when I was showing pictures of it while I was making it, getting it to show, you know, the true colors of this obnoxiously bright neon green tarp. But I'll show you some of the features of it here. So starting at the ridge line, it's got the titanium hook. It just hooks around up there, and it has Nama claws, and then the snake skin is made by Hammock Gear, and I'll put a link to the Nama claws and the titanium hook. Another Nama claw and Dutch Wear wasp. I'll put a link to all this stuff in the description of the video. This is a winter tarp. As you can see, I got the doors clipped together on the inside, and all they do is there's two little mitten hooks, a mitten hook on each cord, and I just hook them together there. Got pullouts on there on all the sides. These cords, you could take them off, or you can leave them on there all the time, or however you want to do that. And then we got Nama claws down here that go to the stakes. A little bit of shot cord on there that helps, like if somebody were to trip over your line or whatever, it puts less stress on the tarp. Seam sealed the ridge line, and where the tie outs are, the reinforcement panels here and the stitching here, I don't bother seam sealing because it does no good to seam seal that when you got rain just right here, an inch on each side of it. So it's just a waste of time and money to do that. So I'm going to set the camera up and show you a little bit of this. Okay, so the doors can be clipped together here on the inside or on the outside of the tarp. Either way, I prefer to have them on the inside of the tarp for two reasons. First of all, if they're on the inside of the tarp and then unexpected rain shower comes or something, I can stay under the tarp and unclip these and shut the doors. If they're outside, then I'd have to go outside to unclip them. So that's one reason. Another reason, if you have them clipped, if you have these brought around on the outside and clipped together like this, some people prefer to do that, but the wind will a lot of times catch it and blow out the door like a big balloon and just, you know, wreak havoc on flopping your tarp around a lot and everything. It's like a little parachute or something, you know. And in here, the wind could come through here and it could catch one of these doors and do that to an extent, but you got a narrow stream of wind, you know, coming through here, where if it was outside, you got a whole big area of wind that could come in and catch that. So I prefer to have these on the inside. The one time I don't, the one exception, is if I'm using all these pullouts. I'm going to put a trekking pullout across here and show you how I do these pullouts. But if I do that to get that extra room in there, then this still hangs down here like this, so I'm kind of losing all the room that I've gained. So in those situations, I'll either have the doors closed or I'll have the doors on the outside. To hook them up, just unclip these, the doors drop down. Bring the camera in here because the door's getting ready. The wind's going to blow the camera across the door across the camera. So then just come down, got a mitten hook here, and hook it to that shot cord. Bring the other side across. Hook it to the shot cord. There, I brought the mitten hooks over, and as you can see, the door goes from here, the big angle up there, so that's how much they overlap. And of course, the wider your tarp is set, the less of an overlap, and the closer together you have, the more of an overlap they'll have. And one thing you want to take into consideration, like I put this outside door there first, and then put this one in, so the wind, if the wind was coming from this way, then that would catch this door here and blow it around a lot. So you want to take that into consideration. If the wind was coming from this way, it'd be no problem. If the wind was coming from this way, I would need to put this door on the outside. It just, kind of common sense. But so got those doors closed, and then if I close these, I got this tarp pretty narrow right now. I should have spread it apart a little wider. But now, as you can see, there's a gap here, and when your straps come through, they'll just ride through wherever they sit at on there, so that's not an issue. But then got the doors closed there, got these doors closed here, so you're all sealed in and everything. You'll have a little bit of air coming through because the straps are going to come down a little bit farther, so that'll make a little better gap here for the air to flow through to help with condensation. And then I got the tarp up about knee high, which would still keep my hammock up out of the weather. In the winter time, I usually drop my hammock and the tarp down to help out with to avoid any to limit the amount of cold air coming through. And right now, the way I got my tarp set up, I'm 5'8". I'm kind of scrunched down a little bit, but so you got plenty of room here, especially if you pull out the sides. You got a whole lot more room. And of course, whenever I lower it, when it's really cold and I get it closer to the ground, I get my hammock closer to the ground, I don't really have room to stand up or anything, but it's blocking some of the wind, so that's all that matters. So I'll take you on the outside and show you the pull-outs and stuff for out there. Okay, so to use these trekking poles, you could use, like on that Florida tarp, I showed using an old tent pole, or you could use a stick or something. But what you want to keep in mind is having it as long as you can, because if it's too short, it'll just pull straight up and it won't really help you out any. You need it to pull out as far as you can. So that's the main deal. You got this long rope here, and you got a little loop with the prusik knot, and that's where it's adjustable. This loop with the prusik knot, you can slide it up and down. As soon as you let go, it locks in place. If you have any problems with this locking, make sure all these wraps are nice and even. They're not over the top of each other, because if they're bunched up and over the top of each other, they will not hold as well. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go on that side, and I'm going to put the loop in the handle like this, and then on this side I'm just going to stick the loop right in there. So I'm going to put that on there real quick. It's kind of a balancing act when you're getting it set in place with the trekking pole. You put that down there and tighten this up. kind of even out where the pole's sitting. So you got the same on each side, and as you can see how it kind of pulls out the side of it, and that gives you a lot more room. Inside there, the way that pulls that out. Of course the other side's not done, but this side here, there's a lot more room across there than there is down there. These poles work out pretty good for that stuff. I'll show you another thing. Okay, so this is what I prefer to do myself. I think it works a little bit better, and especially if it gets really windy, this pole could start rocking, and then it could slip down on one side, and now you got one side pulled out and the other side's not. And I have not this cord, but I have another cord that I tie from there to here on my tie outs, and it's kind of loose. Like when I tie it, it kind of hangs down and then comes back up. So then I just take that and take a wrap or two around my handle, and then I pull that out, and then it pulls the sides out, pulls both sides out like this. You know, of course this would be in the middle, and it would pull both sides out. And when you get it pulled out like that, it does a lot better. So I wrap that around, I stand the pole up, and I have another cord that goes from my trekking pole down to the stake down there, or I could tie it to a tree or whatever, or I could just take one cord and tie it to a tree over there, another cord, tie it to a tree. Either way, having these sides pulled out that way versus up to like a trekking pole or whatever, it makes a really big difference on how much room you can get inside your tarp. So that's what I prefer to do. Just tie a cord from there to there, loop it around my handle, have it centered between the two tie outs, stand it up, tie a string down to a stake on the ground. Works a lot better, keeps it a lot tighter, a lot more room in there. And another reason I like about doing it this way is I very, very rarely use a trekking pole across the top of it, or a stick or anything. But normally I have my tarp up in porch mode, and which side I set up in porch mode depends on which way the wind's blowing. If the wind's blowing this way, I'll have that side lifted up in porch mode, and vice versa. If the wind's blowing this direction, I'll have this side lifted up. So I can't do the trekking pole across the top if I have it up in porch mode, and normally, you know, with that side over there lifted up, the wind's coming from this side, and the wind will want to keep pushing this in. So having it pulled straight out like that, it really helps. That wind can get really strong, and it can still really hold it up. When you have the pole up like this, you're not pulling out as much, you're pulling out and up, and it's a little more vulnerable to the wind. It could still keep pushing in. So this is how I prefer to do it. And if you have it in porch mode and you're using both your trekking poles to hold up, you know, each end of the tarp, then you don't have a trekking pole to do this, but you can find a stick or any random thing, or you know, you tie your one loop to these two tie out points, and then just tie you another string to the center of that, and then tie that off to a tree or something. I mean, there's ways around it, you know, just depending on exactly what your setup is. And then also, if I'm even if I'm not in porch mode, but especially if the weather's going to be bad, raining or whatever, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the tarp, and I got the doors closed and all that kind of stuff, I'll put one trekking pole like this on one side and one trekking pole like that on the other side, you know, where I got the cord going across, loop it around my handle and pull it out. I'll do that on both sides, and man, that works great. You got a lot of room in there doing it that way. A lot more room than doing the whole trekking pole across the top. Just some of my preferences on the way I do things. These are just a little, for the person getting this tarp, these will be on here when you get them, but all it is just a little, it's got a little loop, and then I just stick the loop through the eye of that plastic ring, and then pull the cord through, and then it makes basically a lark's head. You know, it just ties around there like a lark's head knot. So you could take these off and on depending on how you want to do them. I usually have mine off, and then I just set it up for the situation I'm in that particular night or those nights. For anybody that's watching this that is wondering about, you know, they're trying to decide whether they should get a winter tarp or a hex tarp. So hex tarp looks like what you're seeing right now. It doesn't have the material on here for the doors. And if you look at it, you're only adding, let me see if I can see that in the camera. Yeah, I'll move the camera just a little bit more. So you're only adding this piece of material, you know, from here to there. That's all you're adding. And the size, you know, this is ×4, but the size that these 4 extra little pieces of material takes up in your bag, plus the minimal amount of weight, in my opinion, I think it's better to have a winter tarp. I think it's better to have a winter tarp because some people will buy a hex tarp for the summertime and then buy a winter tarp for the winter time. You're just spending twice as much money, and I would rather have one piece of equipment that does everything that I would need it to do. And then especially, you know, like fall, late fall, then you know, should I bring my hex tarp or should I bring my winter tarp or whatever? I can bring this tarp and or my winter tarp like this, and if the weather's nice and everything, I could just clip the doors together on the inside, and then it's like a hex tarp, you know. But then if the weather, you know, it's late fall or really early spring, and the weather turns really bad during that couple days, well, I've got the doors on there. I can seal it all up and have a winter tarp. And it could be something as simple as, even during the summertime, if you get a really strong wind and rain, and it's blowing through one end of your tarp. I know you try to set up your tarp, you know, based on what direction, you know, the winds and storms come through and everything, and you try to prepare for all that. But sometimes you just can't because of the way the trees are situated or where you want to camp or whatever. So even during the summertime, if it was raining and the wind picked up really bad and it was blowing in rain, you could just seal up one side of it, you know, and whichever side the rain's coming from. And if all you have is a hex tarp, then you can't do that. You're just going to get wet, you know. So for anybody considering, I don't care where you buy it from, but anybody trying to figure out whether they should get a hex tarp or a winter tarp, that's just my thoughts on it, you know. You could talk to 10 different people and get 11 different answers on what's best, but that's just my thought on it. Like I said, the extra weight of a winter tarp compared to a hex tarp, the extra weight, I mean, you're just talking ounces. I get it, ounces equals pain, I get all that stuff, but minimal amount of extra space in your bag and minimal amount of weight, and then you're prepared for whatever life throws at you while you're out there. Speaking of which, the clouds and all that stuff are starting to come up, and I just seen a lightning over there. So tarp's done. If you looked at this here, whenever I was first showing you on the inside, that bungee was loose, and on the other end, I pulled that stake up, sorry. So that one bungee was loose. If you looked when I was first showing inside the tarp, I pulled that stake out a little bit farther, and that tightened up that bungee for the door. If you noticed that while you were watching it. So this is it. I think that covers everything. I don't remember if I just said it a second ago, but you got a ridge line, an internal ridge line that goes underneath your tarp. You can hang like a headlamp from or whatever. I think that's it. That's majority of the stuff I had to cover. This is, I'm not filming this with my regular camera, and I'm trying to do it with a phone, and it's not as smooth. So this is all I did here with the bungee cord for the door. I just clipped this onto the shot cord there, and it stays in place. And speaking of that, if you wanted to clip your doors on the outside, because there are some people that are really set on having their C's on the outside, just clip them together. There you go. And of course I didn't bring up the camera, did I? No, of course not. There you go. So now they're clipped on the outside, they're out of your way, inside there and everything. But like I said, the wind can come down here and catch this and just make a big parachute out of it. And instead of just having that narrow little path of wind inside there, you got the wind from all different directions. You know, it could come from here all the way over there, anywhere over there. That wind could come in here and catch this, and you know, the more this is blowing out, the more your whole tarp is going nuts. So however you prefer to try it for the person that's going to get it. I'm going to clip them together on the inside when I put it together. And one more thing, seam sealed. Yes, I remember I said I seam sealed it, but you have to put baby powder or talc powder on there, because otherwise the seam sealant remains sticky, and I don't want it when it's all packed together, you know, the tarp ends up sticking to itself or whatever. So I wiped down as much of the baby powder and stuff as I could. I tried, you know, not to be sloppy with it when I was putting it on there, but you can see a little bit of baby powder up here, and I might find a little spot here or two on the tarp of baby powder. That's what it's for, to get rid of that stickiness of the seam sealant. I'm going to put this together. There's one thing I want to show the person that's getting this about the snake skin. That's a little bit different than the snake skin before. Then the snake skin for that hex tarp, that Florida tarp. Well, I'm going to show a free little bonus tip. One thing I'll do if the weather's really, really nice and I don't want the tarp down, but I know that night it's either going to rain or a lot of heavy dew, I will set it up like this, and then I'll just unhook the cords. I'll leave them staked in, unhook the cords from the tarp, and then I'll just slide a snake skin back over it. And then right before I go to bed, or if unexpected rain comes or whatever, just slide the snake skin off, and then just grab the tie outs and clip it in place, and I'm set up in just a matter of seconds. Okay, when I'm putting the snake skin up, I take my hand underneath the tarp and kind of hold it up, grab a hold of the snake skin, and I just kind of run along like that. Now here's the difference I was talking about. If you've seen that Florida tarp, that hex tarp on there, I just zipped it on down. If you watch the video, just closed it all up with no problems. But these winter tarps have a little bit more extra material. So what I do with this, when I get down to this point, I take it and I just kind of loosely hold it up there. And a lot of times I find it's easier if I kind of get it up on my shoulder, and then I could just take it and bring it on down and it's done. What causes that to bulk up like that is those doors, even though they're not closed, they're folded over. No matter if you fold them on the inside or outside, they're folded over, and it catches air that's being squished out, so that makes it kind of bulky right there. And doing what I just did helps with that. So that is it. So the person getting this, I hope you enjoy it. Sorry I couldn't show this and your hammock together, but it's going to start raining soon, and it's supposed to start raining all day tomorrow, so I won't be able to get a chance to do that. But hope you enjoy it.